The new channel. The new channel. Hashtag TNC Now.
The views, opinions, and insights expressed in the following shows are those of the host, producers, guests, and viewers. They do not necessarily reflect the position of the channel. Viewer discretion is advised.
Hello and welcome to the new channel. Our passion transforms a community that sees and shares all things new. This is Frances Bauer streaming from my office here in Santa Clara, California. You're watching Design Your Life on TNC.
Do you like to watch and live vicariously through others' family lives, travels, relationships, passions? This show is here to encourage you to go beyond just dreaming. We'll show you some things that'll stretch your beliefs, and you'll meet some people whose real-world experiences and perspectives just might help you figure out how to go after the life you want, and maybe even break some mental barriers you didn't realize you had. This is Design Your Life with Frances Bauer.
Martha, thank you so much for joining us on the show. I really appreciate you taking the time and, interest in telling your story.
Of course, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Yeah. So, of all these different accomplishments that we've been talking about, I just really want to know. I mean, I heard that you had humble beginnings, but I don't really know much beyond that. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Tell us where you come from.
Where I come from?
Yes.
Okay. So I was born in San Juan de los Lagos in the state of Jalisco, Mexico.
Okay.
And I got to go back with my mom when I was in my 20s. I had left Mexico to come to the U.S. when I was 6 years old.
Oh.
And so I went back for the very first time when I was 27.
Oh, wow.
And my
That's
mom,
a long time.
it was a long time.
Wow.
So my mom took me to my auntie's house, which had been her house at one point. And she took me by the hand and she took me to this room. And she said, "You see this room? See that corner right there on the floor? Yeah." She said, "You were born right there on the floor of that room." Yes.
Oh my gosh.
And so, of course, the emotions were just incredible. And to just know that, that's where we come from. My parents grew up in very humble beginnings, again, in a little farm with next to nothing, everything that they cultivated with their own hands. And my father built, their little house, and, it just started from that.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then fast forward to today. Can you help me bridge the gap between, if there's such a stark contrast? What happened?
Yeah. So basically, when we were brought to the U.S., I'm one of 8 kids.
Oh my goodness.
Seven of us were born at the time. I'm third to youngest, but at the time I was second to youngest. So I was 6 years old. My baby brother was 3. And then up until the age of my oldest brother was 15 at the time.
Oh, wow.
And so the reason that my parents came to the U.S. was to give us a future and to give us, a hope of something other than what they grew up with. Very intelligent people. My father, in another world, would probably have done something in the field of engineering or something. My mother is brilliant, but just, economic circumstances being what they were, they just weren't encouraged to go to school. They were encouraged to just work and survive.
I see.
And so when we came to the U.S., both of my parents worked in factories. And there was a time my dad worked sometimes up to 3 jobs just to provide for us.
How many
Just
hours do you work?
provide.
How many hours are you working to do to
So
hold
a
your
first shift job, a second shift job, and then a weekend job.
Oh.
So it was just a lot. But that's what he had to do. And so literally that was just survival. It wasn't to have nice things. It wasn't to vacation. Or we didn't know what any of that stuff was. It was literally just survival. We didn't leave our country, everything we know, our families, our language, our culture to come here, and you guys don't do something with this opportunity. You better go to school. You better do something. And that moment was very pronounced for me. I'll never forget when I was in fourth grade, we got the phone call that my father's mother was dying.
Mm-hmm.
And so at this point in time, we're undocumented immigrants.
Oh boy.
And so he couldn't just get on a plane and go back. So we had to make the heart-wrenching decision. Do I go there to be with my mother in her last breath and risk not being able to cross back over to take care of my family? And so here, my courageous, amazing mother said, go, be with your mother and we'll figure it out. God will provide. God will figure out a way. And so he was able to go do that. And then, of course, made it back. And here we are. But those are the moments that really kind of seared in my heart that this was not any ordinary little sacrifice that they made. And that I had to. I didn't know about my other siblings and what they would do, but I felt in my heart, I need to do something with this. It's not even an option to not do.
Mom told your dad, go ahead, just go.
Yeah. And just thinking about it now as a mother, children, responsibilities, putting myself in her position, just again, the tremendous amount of courage that took for her to say that, because I don't know that I would have done that. I might have been like, no, you're not going anywhere. What about me? What about the kids? What about, And
how many kids at this point in time?
Now there was the 8.
8 kids.
Yeah, now there was the 8.
So she told her husband, I got the 8 kids.
Yeah.
I will
Yeah.
work. I will do the work. I've got the 8 kids. We don't know if
We
you're
don't
gonna
know. We don't know if you're going to be able to
make
come
it
across
back.
the border again, because, things change and
Yeah.
it gets harder to, do different things.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So then I decided at that moment. It was kind of like the, drawing in the sand, where I am not going to waste my parents' sacrifice and goof off or not do something substantial with it. And I didn't know what that looked like. I didn't know what that meant. I had no aspirations to be any one thing career-wise or anything like that. I wasn't thinking from that standpoint. I was just more thinking of the commitment to do something, whatever that was, to not waste the opportunity.
Oh my goodness. And so it sounds like the fire was lit in you.
Yeah. And unbeknownst to me, like it's one of those moments where a seed gets planted in you and you don't realize it until much, much later. And you are asked to find, when was the moment when you decided that you would do X, Y, Z? And so doing a lot of self-development work, I realized that was the moment for me, where I decided I will be successful. I will do something with this opportunity. I don't know what it is. I don't even know what success means. I've never seen it modeled. I've never experienced it before, but I know that some way, somehow, something good's going to come from this.
So if we were to look back and, if we had like a time machine, a camera time machine to look back at the reality show of your life, at that, the younger version of you, when are we going to start seeing that seed start to sprout, and what did that look like, and what did that what was your mind, what were the gears going on about at that point in time?
So again, with my mom, I've always been a tomboy. I have 4 brothers. I grew up right in the middle of all my brothers, and just kind of had to get in where I fit in with them. There was no time to be a sissy lala, as they said. If you're going to play with us, if you cry, you got to go inside. So I'm like, okay. So I had to be tough. And so I've always played sports, and I'll never forget when I was in 8th grade, I tried out for a softball team.
Okay.
And I did so well that the coach is like, I'm going to put you in the varsity team at the high school. I was in middle school at the time.
You tried out for middle school?
I tried out for middle school, and he said, I'm going to put you on varsity at the high school level. And I'll come get you and drive you back and forth. And I was just like so elated. So I come home and I'm so excited, and I'm telling my mom, and she starts bawling. And I'm like, I thought she was tears of joy. No, she was like, how much is this going to cost? What are you going to need? And I'm like, okay, well, I need cleats, and I need a uniform, and I need a glove, and, all these other things, and the enrollment fee, whatever. And she's like, I don't have it. I don't know what to tell you. I don't have it. So here I am, 13 years old, going on 14. And I said, Mom, don't worry about it. I'll figure it out.
Oh my God. What'd you do?
And so I ended up going to the mall and lying on my application and saying I was older. At that time, you had to be 18 to get a job at our mall.
Oh.
And so I had to tell them that my little 13-year-old self was 18 so that they would give me a job. And the ladies like that face. And so then I got the bright idea that I had a baby sister who was about 1.5 at the time.
Okay.
So I bring my baby sister with me to the interview and say she's
your
my
daughter.
daughter. I did. I said, this is my daughter and I'm 18. And so, of course, what 13-year-old would have a child, right? So
back in the day.
So I was a salesperson even then. I didn't realize that. I sold that story so well. So that's how I got my first job. And I've never, ever had to ask my parents for a dime ever again in my life since then. It's just, if I couldn't give them anything, at least I didn't want to take from them. And I wanted to be self-sufficient. And so from that moment forward, I bought my school clothes if I wanted to do sports or be in a play or whatever else I wanted to do. I paid for it myself and just took care of things. I've always just kind of had that, gumption about myself to just take care of things.
Wow. And so, okay, so, that's kind of what it looked like for you as a child, going to school, going to high school.
Yeah.
And then, so how did you transition over to, being a consultant for businesses, and being, helping women with tax strategy and all this stuff that you're doing now, being a chair on a nonprofit.
Yeah.
As a single mom.
I think all of it just comes from having a servant's heart. I always look to help. How can I help? How can I serve? If I know something, does that something that I know have the potential to help you? And so I've always been very generous with my knowledge. I have been on the other end of things where somebody knows something that I know I need and they won't share it with me. Go figure it out, or they just won't be forthcoming. And so I've never understood that, because if we can help one another, particularly in our communities, being immigrants, particularly in this country, we have to kind of fend for ourselves. They're not going to just give us what we need. We got to go figure it out and find it and go the long way around and get to the same result. And so I've seen my parents struggle. I've seen other people in my community struggle. I've always been in customer service or secretary, receptionist, somewhere where I'm helping people pretty much ever since my first job. And so what I saw very early on was people needing help and no one really being willing to help them. And it wasn't, again, a conscious thought. It was just something that kind of got planted into me, where I've just kind of been a problem solver. I was that friend that people would go to with a problem and I would figure out a way, out of it. So it just ingrained in me to be a problem solver and a solution finder. So in business, it really just organically happened. I wasn't seeking it out. I didn't even want to own my own business. I never thought of ever owning my own business, but the Lord had other plans. And so my ex-husband and I were presented with an opportunity to own a mortgage company and a real estate company. And that's what we did. Wow. He was the guy that was out there moving and grooving. I was behind the scenes doing everything, the admin and all of that. But one particular year, a very good friend of ours came to me and said, I have to move out of state and I want to sell you my tax practice. And I said, well, I don't even do my own taxes. Why would I want to buy a tax practice? Not only that, but at that point in my life, my sons were 13 and 18 years old. And I had just adopted my little girl. So she was about 6 months old at the time. And I'm like, I finally have my baby girl. We're doing very well financially. I don't need anything. I just want to spend time with her. No, I don't want another business.
Sure.
And he said, well, why don't you pray about it? And so here I am praying, Lord, I don't need another business. I'm praying against this. And all I could feel, the impression that I felt in my heart was just trust me.
Oh my gosh.
And of course, how do you say no to God?
Oh no.
Right? So I said, okay. So my very first tax season was in 2007. And I worked 12-hour days, 7 days a week. And after 4.5 months of doing this, I made, in all of that time, about half of what we made in 1 month in the mortgage company.
Oh, gosh.
And so I thought, why in the world am I doing this? This makes no sense. But again, trust me.
Oh, my gosh.
I said, okay. So this was obviously the beginning of the year in 2007.
Okay.
By that fall,
I know what
I
happened.
found out that my husband
Oh.
had been having an affair
Oh my God.
6 years, and my marriage fell apart.
Mm.
And then the very next year, the 2008 hit.
So
My marriage had fallen apart.
real estate
Now
crash,
real estate
yeah.
crashed. So we lost the mortgage company. We lost the real estate company, our home, our cars, everything that we had worked for to build. Everything is gone except
the tax
the tax office.
practice.
The only thing left standing was the tax practice, and how perfect his timing was. And the only thing still standing is the tax practice. That's what's kept a roof over my head. That's what kept food on my table. That's what's given me the opportunity to serve. And so how did it happen that I became a consultant is sitting in that tax chair? Because I see people come in, yes, with their tax documents, but with a lot of questions. And so it ended up being just a lot of, hey, do you know how this works? Hey, do you know how that works? And just explaining how things work. And I became known as the lady who explains things. And so they would bring me people because I take the time to explain things to them. And I'm respectful, and I don't look at them like they should know this stuff, or, just again, treating them in a way that I wish people had treated my parents, because I saw them being mistreated for so long. And I didn't want anybody to have to experience that, particularly in my office.
So what's that? Is your tax, just to clarifying question, the tax practice, was that a just prep?
Yep, tax
or was
prep.
Was it also strategy?
No, it was
so
just tax prep. I literally bought a tax list and software. And it evolved into strategy. It evolved into consulting. It evolved into workshops and classes and all these other things that the Lord kept putting in my heart, of just evolving it and making it bigger. And then, I still kept my real estate license after the 2008 fiasco.
Why not?
Because, I had it, so why not? And so I'm working all these insane hours, showing houses in the evenings and weekends, still trying to do the taxes, still the single mom. Now I've got this little toddler, and I'm taking her all over God's green earth with me to do these things because, single mom. And so when she was 6, we spent the entire summer just working, showing houses, and I had no swimming, no picnics, no cookouts, no nothing, just working. And all the deals kept falling apart. I mean, no matter what I did, the attorney would mess it up, the inspection, like all of these things. So my daughter's birthday's in December. And she says, Mommy, all I want for my birthday is an American Girl doll. Please, that's all I want, just that one doll. Well, that doll is $120. And I didn't have it. So I said, honey, do me a favor. I said, wait until tax season starts. And then when tax season starts, Mommy will buy you the doll. And she pulls her little arms and she said, you're telling me that we worked, because I took her everywhere, all summer. And we didn't do anything fun. And you can't even buy me a measly doll? And it really just jolted me like, wow, she's right. She's right. I need to look for something else. I need to do something different. And again, as God would have it, I met a gentleman at a workshop, and he, said, why don't you come work for us, work for my real estate office? And so I closed down mine, went and worked for him. And part of their presentation had a slide in there that said, we can teach you how to pay off your home in 9 years or less. And we can teach you how to pay off your car, your credit cards, all your debt, including your brand new home that you're about to buy with us in 9 years or less. And so I'm like, I want to learn how to do that.
Yeah.
Because people need to know that.
Absolutely.
I mean, anybody could sell you a house, but that's special.
Yes, it is.
And so they're like, oh, you don't want to do that. You got to take classes, and you got to get another license. And then there's these meetings. And I'm like, I don't care. I want to do that.
What in the world
and
is
so
that?
I
They're like, hey, look at this.
Yeah.
No,
you don't want to do that. So they wanted me to be a realtor. They didn't want me to be a financial professional. And so I'm like, no, I want to do that. So I recruited myself into financial services. I went and got the licenses and took the classes and did everything. And that was back in 2012. And so then it just kind of was this beautiful marriage of information. Not only can I help people now with their tax strategy, with starting a business, how to structure it, what's an LLC, what's an S Corp, how do all of these things work. But then now that I'm helping them save all of this money that they would have otherwise given to tax man.
Yeah.
Now I can show them how to create a tax-free retirement.
Beautiful.
Now I can show them how to get out of debt in 9 years or less. Now I can show them how to create legacy planning for their children and their children's children and beyond. And so it really, truly wasn't sought. It just genuinely happened and evolved and has become this wonderful, like, catalyst for change in the communities,
That's so amazing.
and just really, truly doing something that changes lives, you know, because I sat down one day and I said, okay, what do I want to do with my life, right? And I'm like, I'm already doing this, but does that really speak to making a difference in someone's life, something tangible?
Yeah.
You know, that the day that you die, they will say, that was the lady that did this for me and my family. Taxes isn't going to do it. Real estate isn't going to do it. And I just knew that it was financial services, but in a teaching and consulting, you know, fashion, if you will.
Okay.
So that's
Wow.
kind of just happened.
Can I ask you,
Yes.
in the point in time where in your career where you were just giving away free advice, you were spending extra time, no tax preparer, and this is what I tell people, you know, what people who talk to me about their taxes and whatnot, I tell them your tax preparer is not going to. Most tax preparers, I can't speak for all. I'm not going to try to paint a broad stroke. Most tax preparers will only deal with whatever forms you bring them, whatever information you bring them, ask for a couple things, put it in, send it off, and take the fee, take your fee, and, you know, see you in a year. They won't go through these things with you.
Right. And with all due respect, they're doing their job.
Yeah.
Because that's their job.
That is their job. That is exactly.
And so
their job.
anything above and beyond that now is not tax preparation.
Yeah.
It's like going to get your oil changed and then being angry that they didn't tell you that you needed new tires or that your engine's about to blow up. That's not their job. Their job is to change your oil.
Exactly.
And so it's the same thing with the tax preparer. Their job is to prepare your taxes, not to counsel you, not to strategize with you. Those of us that do are just kind of going above and beyond. But again, it just comes naturally to people that you can't help yourself. If you see something needs to be fixed.
Well, some people can. Some
Well,
people,
maybe
I can't,
can.
and I don't
I've never
understand
been
it.
able to.
I can't. But you understand what I mean, right? Some people will they'll just gloss over it because, like, I need to get my next one.
Exactly.
And
the quicker you get them in and out, the better.
Exactly. The more profitable, right? Or so, you know, in theory, right? Right. The faster you get them through, taken care of, and out the door, the more people you can take care of, the more profitable you can be. However, you didn't do that. No. Did you ever wonder that, you know, did you worry that you might be losing money, because time is money, by doing that?
I didn't really think of it that way at the time. When it got to the point where I was spending most of my time consulting and very little prep, right? So if I'm spending an hour or two, sometimes 3 with somebody to get a little tiny tax prep fee, that's when it kind of dawned on me that this could possibly be something more. And so, again, I'm always with the heart of helping the community and giving the most of myself that I can. I just said, I have to be able to do this smarter. So rather than spending 2 or 3 hours per person, if I can get a group of them in a room and answer the questions all at once.
You did seminars.
I did. And I didn't know they were called seminars. And I didn't know that I just was trying to be efficient with my time. And so I said, if there's 10 or 15 of you that all want to learn about this one thing, all come in and then we'll have that one conversation. And it was funny when I realized that I was doing seminars, but I didn't set out to do seminars.
And you weren't charging for these
No,
things,
this is all free. I was just trying to be efficient. Trying to be efficient. You know, I would tell somebody something like, wow, this is so good. I said, well, bring in your family and we'll just have a conversation about it. Or I'll come over. I'll work for food. If you invite me over and cook for me, I will come to your house. And so I was coming to their house and just having these little family meetings with their families, and I just loved it. And what I realize now, 15 years later, is that nothing that we do is ever wasted. Because what it did do is it prepared me to do it professionally.
Wow.
It prepared, I was exercising a muscle that I didn't know. And so now I have the ability to speak in front of groups and it doesn't faze me. I have the ability to just grab information seemingly from the air because I've said it so many times. I've taught on these topics hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. And so it just kind of flows. And so what I've learned is that anything that we do with the spirit of excellence, not perfection,
Excellence.
but excellence, it sears something inside of you. And so later on when you need it, it'll be there. And so that's the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Because when you have knowledge, then when you need that, you have to go back and read your notes and you have to go back and look for the information. But when you have wisdom, it's already there and you can just pull from it and glean from it whenever you need to. So it was preparation for such a time as this.
Wow. That's amazing.
So was it really free?
Well,
You know, it was an investment. It was an investment of myself into them, but then it was also an investment of them into me because the feedback that I got was invaluable. Now I've been able to craft the information in such a way because I know what they're going to ask me. I know, like I can already tell you the top 10 questions that I'm going to get asked at any given moment, and I already have a crafted answer ahead of time.
wow.
So
You could probably even have a pamphlet. You're like, okay, before you ask, here's my FAQs.
And so what happens now is you incorporate it into the teaching. And so you're answering questions before they're even asked. Because you already can preempt what they need, what they're going to ask, what they've gone through. So it's interesting.
Wow. So I have two questions for you, just kind of going back on that topic. What advice do you have for the freelancers out there who are just, they feel like they want to be making more, but they're embarrassed or afraid to charge more because they want to be competitive on their pricing, on their fees, right? But at the same time, you know, what advice do you have for these people, for these freelancers?
I'll tell you, it's the advice that I was given. Okay, when you seek answers, they will come to you, because I was always very embarrassed to charge more. But that was a twofold answer. One, I didn't feel like I was worth more. Because I didn't realize how much value I brought. I didn't realize how much knowledge I had amassed over the years. I didn't realize that what I had was so important and so valuable. So the first step was recognizing my own value and my own self-worth.
How did you do what did that for you? How did you realize that?
What did it for me was not giving the answer to someone when I knew they needed it. And then seeing what they went through because I didn't give them the answer.
Oh my God.
And that was very difficult for me because I'm like, I could have helped them avoid that, but I didn't say anything because, again, this was a person that I looked up to that had a lot more degrees and a lot more success. And I just felt like it was out of my league. Like, who am I to speak to that person? And so I didn't.
And then you saw them
fall. But then I saw them fall and I knew that I had the answer. And so that made me realize what you have is important and it needs to be taught and it needs to be given and it needs to be spoken about. You know, you have to give people the information. And so that was the first thing. And then the second thing was, how much would I pay for this information? If I needed it and I was in that position, what would it be worth to me? And so initially I would charge very little or not at all, as you saw. And what I saw happen was that they would take all that information and then they would do nothing with it because there was no monetary exchange. They didn't value it enough because they hadn't put any skin in the game, if you will. And so when I started charging, then they valued it and then they implemented it. So charging was more of a gift for them to make them do it.
So funny.
And then I inevitably was like, wow, this is kind of nice. Like I actually did a seminar and I got paid. Or I, helped somebody and consulted and then they wouldn't take no for an answer. They would force me to take money because initially I was like, no, it's okay. And, just very humble, like, no, it's okay. It's no big deal. They're like, no, it's a very big deal. That answer that you just gave me is going to make a significant difference. So no, here. And they would force me, to take the money. And what shocked me was that what I would have charged had I had the courage to do it was nowhere near what they were willing to give me when I said, just give me whatever you think is fair.
Oh my
Now, not
gosh.
everyone's going to do that. Some people will take advantage of you. But what I very quickly realized is that what a $10 or $20 uh, conversation was worth hundreds of dollars to them.
Mm.
And so that's I mean, they basically allowed me to see myself through their eyes. And it made me realize that the information was valuable, important, and that it was worth paying for. So,
Wow. And if I may ask, what word do you have for the people who are like, oh well, I'm not like you. I can't get there. I don't have that kind of setup like you. Because I mean, I know you came from a family of 8 kids and all that, but you guys made it to the United States. Land of opportunity, right? Easy peasy. Because you, what word do you have for those
I would
folks who
say,
have that, perspective?
again, the perspective comes sometimes when you're looking for it, and it comes in very unexpected ways. So I myself had a very small view of what Mexico could be.
Okay.
Because obviously, we left that country, it must be because it's not good or people can't succeed there or whatever. So I had a very, I wouldn't say negative, but it was a very small, like I thought everybody lived a certain way or everybody was poor or everybody, I just didn't really have a concept, because 6 years old, you really just don't have a real concept of what it is. And so when I was able to go back as an adult, and yes, of course, there's cultural divides.
Sure.
There are people who live very, very, poor, and then there's people that are multimillionaires.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. And I know that sounds silly, but I really didn't know that there was people that had that kind of money.
Well, you probably didn't see it yourself.
And I never saw it. I mean, we lived in very, very poor areas, very poor neighborhoods, and, just that's your normal, and that's what you think everybody's life is like. The funny thing that happened when I went to visit my childhood home is my auntie's driving away, and when we got to the corner, I realized there was more street there. And I asked her, and I said, when did they build all that out? And she said, what do you mean? And I said, isn't that like new? And she's like, no, that's always been there. Oh. And I said, well, I remember it like our street ending there, and there was nothing beyond that. And she started laughing. She said, there wasn't in your 6-year-old mind.
I see.
The world ended at the corner.
Because that's
all that I'd seen was from this corner to this corner. There was nothing else further. And so it's kind of the same thing. I realized that there's opportunity everywhere and anywhere. People are people, and people need things. And so if you can figure out what someone needs, what you have that could fix that or solve that problem or could give them an answer or something of value, and then an exchange, whether it's bartering, because it's not always monetary. Sometimes bartering is phenomenal. If I do this for you, then you do this for me. Now I don't have to pay for that.
Sure.
That's still a financial gain.
Absolutely. And
then you get to the point where people know you as the blank person that does this or that. And then you do that. My mom, in our little neighborhood where we live, my mom was known for the lady who was very good seamstress.
Oh, wow.
And so here she was with my father working in the US, making whatever he could and sending money home. And then my mom with these 7 kids, right? And she couldn't work outside of the home because who's going to watch the kids? So she would figure out ways to make money in the house. So she would, iron for people. Just ironing clothes made her money. Or she would fix things, or she would make clothes. She would make our cute little crochet dresses with our little head things that matched, and our little bobby socks with the little, edging that matched our little dress. And she was known as the lady who did those things. And so here she was, and just made a way to do that. And there was always someone in the neighborhood that did something. The lady that made pozole, which is a wonderful soup that we have, so there's a pozole lady. Every day she would do that. The lady that made the tamales, or the lady that, and there was always someone, the gentleman who came, and he was like what we call the mil usos, the guy who could do 1,000 things. And he would come and fix whatever little, things you needed in your home. So everyone has purpose, and everyone has gifts. Find that thing that you do easily, naturally, that comes so easy to you that you don't think is a big deal. Maybe you make a phenomenal cake, and you're known for that cake. Maybe you fry chicken extremely well. What is it that you do that you do with love, that you do with passion, and that other people go, wow, I love the way you do that. Whatever that is, doing hair, babysitting, dog walking. I mean, something. There's got to be something in you that says, I love doing this thing. I would do it for free. But because I love it so much, I do it well and with excellence. And so now that merits a fee.
Wow.
And you can do that anywhere.
You sure can. You sure can. Martha, thank you so much for
My pleasure, of course.
sharing that with us and sharing your story. And I'm hoping that we can reach some people that needed to hear what you had to say. Maybe they're in a place where you were and are looking at, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? What words of encouragement do you have for those folks?
You know, the last thing that I will say that's just really prevalent in my heart, you mentioned something about doing all of these things as a single parent. I didn't choose that.
No.
You know, I
no.
got married and I thought this is, you know, nobody gets married to get divorced, right? And I fought for my marriage and I wanted, I mean, even through everything, I wanted to be married and I wanted to have my family together. And being put in this position where I was a single parent, not once, but twice. So I just realized, don't put labels on yourself. I actually changed the way that I want to introduce myself from a single mom, which has such a negative connotation. I would say I live in a one-income household.
Okay.
And it just, for me, that just gave me power. Because I'm not a single mom that like needs handouts and that needs like, I'm not a poor,
I think
you know
single
what I mean?
mom, I feel that word single mom makes me, oh, pobrecita.
Yeah, it's automatically negative.
Yeah,
like, oh, she
it
needs it.
is.
And it's not to say that I don't need help with things. Of course, we all do. Whether you're a man, whether you're a woman, whether you're married, whether you're single, we all need other human connection and other people's help. But I wanted to get rid of the stigma of the single mom thing. So I said, no, I'm a one-income household. And guess who brings the income?
That's you.
I do. And how much do I bring in? As much or as little as I want. And so it really just changed the dynamic of the way that I looked at my situation from a lack perspective to an empowering position of, if I want to make more, all I have to do is do more. I don't have a job where they tell me, they don't put a sticker on my forehead that says you're worth, you know, $5 an hour, $10 an hour. I get to decide how much that worth is. And if I need more income, I just do more work. I make more phone calls. I help more people. I do more workshops. I do whatever I can to help people. And inevitably, I get helped. So whether you're a single parent, because there's a lot of one income household that are male led, it isn't always single women.
True.
And so if you're a one income household, or even if you're a married couple, you could be a one income household, because that happens a lot. I grew up that way.
It sure does, yeah.
Don't look at it as limiting. Look at it as, where's my opportunity with this? What can I do with what I have? And who can I help? And how could I grow this? Or how could I expand on this? And for me, when I did get blindsided with that divorce and I lost all the material things that I thought were important, the one glaring thought in my mind was, go get education. Go learn something, because that's the one thing that no one can take away from you. Once you learn something, it's yours and nobody can take it away. And so that was the one thing that I did immediately, was go learn something.
And by go get education, you don't necessarily mean go back to school, right?
It
I just wanted to clarify
it
that.
isn't always school.
Like
I have degrees that I don't use. Everything that I do comes from a place of experience, life experience, things that have happened to me, things that I've seen happen to others. And to be able to take those experiences and create like a quilt, you know, that I can now cover you with and say it's going to be okay. That's what's been the bread and butter for my business. Yes, I have the degrees. Fine. I've got the student loans to prove it. But they haven't truly helped me in business. What's helped me in business is me. What can I do with my giftings? Who can I go help? Who can I go serve? And that's what's expanded my business, not necessarily the school knowledge. So when I say go learn something, it's not necessarily go get a degree or go back to school. For some people it is. Okay. Clearly you can't go build a bridge unless you have a degree.
Sure.
You can't go, be a surgeon or something if you don't have a degree. But there's a lot of things that we can do where if we just, I strive to do every day, learn something, teach something, and then do something that gets me closer to my goal.
Mm.
And that could be anything. It could literally be, around cooking something in a more efficient way or a more healthy way, or it could be around, why does this happen, or what about the cosmos, or just learn something, expand your knowledge, expand your brain. And then those conversations always seem to come up. Whatever I learned the day before or that week, some way, somehow, it gets sewn into a conversation that week, and then helps me make a friend, or
The
it
same
helps
week.
me expand. Yes. And it just gives you something new to discuss. And imagine if you're like, well, I just sit at home, I don't do anything. What do I need to learn things for? Why not just to be an interesting person? So that when your children or your grandchildren come to see you, or your spouse comes home, you have something new to talk about or something new to share.
Absolutely. Wow.
There's always a reason to learn.
There sure is. Wow. Martha, thank you so much. And for those of you who are, watching us from the United States, and I guess, do you work in only in your home state of Illinois, or?
No, I'm actually all over the U.S., 50
Okay.
continental states, and soon to be global. But for now,
Mm-hmm.
we are in all 50 states. Anyone can find me online. My virtual coffee card is coffeewithmartha.com.
Awesome.
I absolutely love coffee and will drink coffee anywhere, anytime, with anyone.
Okay.
So I just kind of created a brand around it.
Uh-huh.
So that's where you can find me, coffeewithmartha.com. It has all my social on there. It's got my email. It's got, my phone numbers, a way to schedule a 15-minute coffee chat with me.
Beautiful.
And so I can be found.
Awesome. Thanks, folks. Thank you, Martha. And
My
that
pleasure.
was coffeewithmartha.com.
Ang ubo, mabilis lumala. Kaya dapat agapan. Dapat New Solmux Advanced Syrup. May 2 times zinc para ang ubo, imbis na lumala, tulungang mabilis mawala. New Solmux Advanced Syrup.
Unilab yan.
Ang 40D tumutulong patibayin ng vital organs, iwas sakit sa puso at iba pang sakit.